Well, you get asked a lot of questions and you end up generally getting very frustrated because if you feel like you're working 70 hours a week and everybody else is only working 35 hours a week and you feel like you are telling people what to do and then you're still ending up doing most of it, then that means you haven't really delegated. What you've done is you've abdicated. And it just means you just kind of threw it on them without any kind of like, hey, you're in charge of this report now. Okay, well, they don't understand what right looks like. They don't understand what the standard is. They don't understand what kind of help they have. They don't understand, what their left and right boundaries are, what resources are available to them. I mean, you've just thrown it off your plate. You've abdicated it. That's not what delegation is. When you're going to delegate things properly, or you're going to train somebody, right? It's more than just um, telling them what to do. You have to make sure that they have all the resources that they need to have. You need to talk about how often we're going to discuss this. I keep talking about the communications thing, but I mean, just saying, okay, every Friday we're going to meet at 9:30 a.m. and you're going to show me these things and you're going to talk about any problems you have. And I'm not going to bug you any more than that. I'm not going to look over your shoulder. I'm not going to micromanage you. But every Friday we're going to talk about this. You're going to give me these stats, right? I mean, they just love that because now they get a chance to go off and do things. But you got to make sure that you've talked about that communications piece. You got to talk about what their boundaries are. And you got to make sure that they've got all the resources to get all of that stuff done. And then the biggest thing that you have to do is you have to not just tell them what to do. You have to be very clear on the metrics. You have to define that end state for them. You have to tell them what right looks like. In the military, we refer to this as commander's intent. And it is more important than a mission statement. Because when you tell somebody what to do and then you give them the kind of what their parameters are, you give them some leeway, but they still think they need to do something a certain way. Whereas that might not actually be what's important to you. What's important is that at the end of the day or at the end of the quarter, you're going to say, have greater sales. That's what you want, right? You want to be making more money. You want to be more successful in this thing. So it's not, and you might define a task where it seems like that's going to be obvious to somebody, but it's not. What's a good example? It might just be like, you need to increase sales by 10%. That sounds like it's a very clear metric, but there might be different reasons to increase those sales. It might be that you want to increase sales in this particular product because you want to be able to use that as a springboard for the next product. And understanding the purpose, understanding the end state gives that person some leeway because you might actually be more successful at accomplishing that end state and not meet the stated goal. But in the end, what's more important? What's more important is that long-term thing. So that comes about if we're not clear what success looks like on our own. And if we can't communicate that. So that's the secret sauce to delegating something is making sure, first of all, you understand the reason for something. Sometimes it's simple, right? But other times it's not. It's we want to get this thing done. And I might have this other idea in the back of my mind why that's important. If I haven't communicated that, then they can't get there. So, in the military, what this does is this is really what has allowed US military to be so incredibly successful because at all levels, people are able to make decisions. If the mission statement would be, first platoon conducts an assault on Hill 782 no later than this time in order to seize terrain, right? But if the commander's intent was, and when you then give them that, like a platoon will have very specific boundaries that they're allowed to operate in. And if you say that you're going to do an assault, it means generally certain types of things. You're going to do things in a certain way. But if you say that, the intent of this operation is that, by 5 p.m., that hill is completely secure and you're able to repel any enemy counterattacks, all of a sudden your world opens up because you can still get to that success. And maybe when that platoon is doing their assaults, it's not going well. And instead of doing a normal kind of assault that they would do, they change the mission. Maybe they flank out more. Maybe they do some other things. Maybe they go into somebody else's zone that normally they wouldn't do. But at the end of the day, they're getting to that objective and they're doing what it is that's important at the end. That intent, that very clear idea of what success looks like, what the end state should be, allows people freedom of maneuver to get things done. And it stops them from asking you questions all the time. When you've abdicated something, it's when you're getting questions all the time and you end up doing half of it. Whereas if you are very clear about all of those things and you give them everything they need, give them their parameters, tell them exactly what success looks like, how often we're going to communicate about it, and then you can just let them go, right? They come back to you if they have problems. If after that first week, they're talking to you about issues outside of whatever that normal communications time is, more than twice a week, then you've not done it well. I'm going to say, and by week 3, if it's a long-term project, if they're talking to you one time per week outside of that, unless it's like some emergency, then you haven't done your job well. You have not given them everything that they need. And that's on you because you've abdicated. You haven't delegated.